Hey everybody, welcome to Obscurities and Miniatures, and look what we have from Wargames Atlantic. Some Chinese box... no, oh crap. Yeah, this was supposed to be a box of boxers. Pun sadly intended. But things went awry, and I ended up with a box of Bulldogs instead. Don't you fret though, those boxers will be here sooner or later. But I figured, hey, why not turn this lemon into lemonade, right? Or in this case, why not turn this plastic into plastic figures? I spent my childhood being surrounded by figures of the British infantry. My dad and his brother collected all kinds of Britons of various campaigns, uniforms, years, you name it. I've seen it. I've fought it in games between them. We used to have these big battles every New Year's Day that would irritate everybody in the family because they went on forever, but lo and behold, we're gonna recreate that feeling and bring it to a new generation with my kids. Let them feel the pain. So yeah, how many we got in here? Let's see. I do like that they give you some ideas here. World War I and II Tommy on the left. Oh, okay, with those helmets. So, much like the Grognard kit, we got all kinds of interesting stuff, but unlike the Grognard, we have a full plastic sprue this time around, which is actually kind of nice, much like the World War I kits, which I don't think I've posted yet, because I keep dilly-dallying and goofing around with them, but that's a whole different story, isn't it? So, first off, we have the legs separate from the torso, so that's always a nice touch. We're going to be able to build 24. It looks like we've got at least 6 legs on the sprue. If we have 4 sprues, the math checks out. And here you can see some of the gas-masked heads, the Tommy-style heads, some berets and officer-looking heads. Ooh, pith helmets with gas masks. Well, I know what mine are getting. And the classics. Do they have enough facial hair on them? That's an important question. So we've got an assortment. I do like we have some backpacks on there. Backpacks always been an important thing for any figure I build. Pistols. Bayonets attached to every rifle. So far I've noticed all of the guns only have one hand, just the right hand gripping the gun for the most part, so you're going to be able to pose them however you wish. Looks like I've seen both left and right-handed pistols. There's a right-hander and here's a left-hander. We do have one sword at least on the sprue. We have what seems to be, I'm assuming that's a grenade launcher. And I don't know, maybe a flamer? It can be whatever you need it to be, right? And then our Gatling gun up here at the top. Which seems to be quite the nostalgic throwback. As well as what looks like a submachine gun or something? I don't know. I'll let the gun nuts come in and correct me. And then we got 2 more backpacks. We have 3 backpacks on the sprue. Not bad. Plenty of heads. That's always a plus. Oh, we have a big plasma cannon. I missed that. Now, this one does actually require a specific hand, but in those cases, I believe you're going to see a letter and a number to correspond with it. So here's R2. I have no idea where R1 is, or L1. But something to keep in mind. Oh, it seems to me, looking more carefully now, that all of the arms, well, most of the arms, except for, I forgot about the guy with the teacup. How could I forget about that? I wonder if there's a hand with a saucer. That would be wholly appropriate. What's this hand for? Grenade? Or is this grimacing and making a fist, maybe? Looks like it's just an empty fist. How many kneeling bodies? Only one. Okay, I was going to say, you're not going to get away with not having a kneeling body in one of these typical lineups. So, a pretty solid looking sprue, I gotta say. So for I can't speak. Those of you who are looking for just a nice sampler, if you want like individual sprues, I'm sure there are plenty of options available if you just want to get one just to give it a good taste. And I'm sure these are going to be totally compatible with other stuff like the Grognards and everybody and everything. Maybe not so much with some of the other North Star kits, but that's a different story. Obviously, these are Wargames Atlantic. I think the sizes might be off a little bit there, but if you wanted to swap weapons, that might be an idea. So give me a second. I'm going to put a few together. We'll grab a couple other Wargames Atlantic guys, and we'll see how everything turns out. Sit tight. Alright, well, we built a couple Bulldogs. Let's start off with some of my crouching guys here. Get them on the camera, or in focus. And I hate to say it, but the first thing I thought of after building these guys with the pith helmets, the gas masks, the bayonets, the rifles was, honestly, Zulu Wars. And so, well, I couldn't help myself and started painting some guys up, kind of like the box art, except much more sloppy. Very simple, straightforward paint job. And I hate to admit that I just could not stop once I get started on these guys. I had a bit of a hard time, actually, getting the arms. Now, I tried to use the hands that were lined up with each other, and I know that's really sloppy and ugly. They just did not really cooperate getting the guns lined up with the hands. And that seems to be an issue I have with many models, whatever material, whatever size, whatever scale. Just getting the two individual arms lined up with a single weapon is never a pleasant moment for me. I do like the fact that there was an extensive amount of special weapons on the sprue. Now, I didn't get around to using all those special weapons, and I mean, when you consider the fact that this was a full-size sprue versus a lot of the smaller ones that we've seen for the, well, all the Deathfields kits so far. Something to keep in mind. Definitely a ton of variety in terms of heads and weaponry. Put them on a little smaller base. You can see here. Not that it makes a huge difference, but the reason I did that, I was kind of curious myself how they'd end up stacking up with Stargrave stuff. A little bit smaller. The Stargrave, that is. But I wonder if the hands would work well. The Bulldogs obviously have a very steampunk, Victorian-esque look to their weapons. Very traditional, old-fashioned looking stuff. And I'm not so sure, I mean, maybe if you cut off the bayonet, if that's going to translate, if you want a very sci-fi, high-tech looking group. I mean, obviously, I think for the layman, the weapons as is are going to probably cover, I could say, a pretty decent chunk of more traditional historic wargaming. Obviously without the gas masks, perhaps. I mean, and that is an option. There are plenty of those pith helmets without the... Shoot, is he wearing gloves? I don't even know. I'm assuming they weren't. I'm just painting things, however. But you do have to appreciate the fact that there was a guy with a cup of tea. Chip, chip. Cheerio. Whatever. And you do also have those access to the, more sergeant type equipment. And I wasn't satisfied with those guys, so I wanted to start painting some like World War I type guys since we have all the dudes with the Brody helmets. Very plain, simple, and I don't know why these guys made me think Acadians. Maybe it's just the generic colors involved. But I decided my World War I trench fighter style guys were all going to get a bunch of the special weapons from the sprue. Big autocannon. Heavy plasma-like weapon. There's a few more. I don't know where I stuck them. I figured, why not make one a little bit more high-tech? Make him a bit of a commando type. And yeah, these are super sloppy, but I figure at least from a distance, they'll look okay on a gaming table. And it was more for me just to get a good idea of how these things were going to look and how they were going to work. So we'll grab one of each here in a fully upright position with a couple of other Wargames Atlantic type models. I think the bulk of these guys, both with the webbing and those big bulky shoulder pads and knee pads, I don't know if it's going to look right if you use, like, I mean, you know, obviously with the cannon fodder set, we've got a lot of variety of weapons coming as well. Or with the Raumjäger guys, we've got their special weapon sprue. Surprisingly, these guys look a little bit smaller in comparison, which is weird when you think about it. But I think maybe if you swapped out their arms, it might give them a bit of a more high-tech look. But then again, you know, it's not like the Raumjäger guys have the most high-tech looking weapons either. Which then leads me to think, outside of the Stargrave stuff, I don't think we've had like really distinct, obviously sci-fi weaponry outside of like the heavy weapon stuff from Wargames Atlantic. But we do have some kits coming down the pipeline that are definitely going to be ones to keep an eye out for. Grab one of the Frenchmen. I don't know, their weapons aren't much better in terms of that futuristic look. Grabbing a couple other models. Again, I think their bulky shoulder pads are going to limit them from being used with things that really have no business with such fantastical weapons. But, you know, sometimes things like that happen. Kind of surprising that our Afghan friend here is a little bit smaller. First I thought that was a Perry one, but I'm pretty sure, I'm almost 99% sure, because I remember building it, that is a Wargames Atlantic one. I was going to say, are you on the same size base? Let me see if I have any Irishmen on the same sized base. This one? No. Well, you're not an Irishman, but okay. Yeah, I really want to see some bare arms. At least maybe once we get the Space Nom guys, that might be something to goof around with as well. Maybe if you want some more commando-esque looking guys with all the tactical webbing, which they definitely have, minus the shirts, I guess. Grabbing a couple other companies' models if you're curious to see how they stack up, of various sizes and shapes. You know, Vans aren't really standing like normal healthy humans, but it's a good size between the two of them if you wanted to start goofing around with, you know, throwing Necromunda pieces on these guys. I'm sure I have a bunch left over from various kits. Might be something worth considering. I hadn't really thought of that yet. Just because we can't. Yeah, that's okay. Maybe more the Orlocks or somebody like that. But honestly, I gotta say, versatile kit, and I think if you're, even for just skirmish stuff, I mean, the just difference in just a quick paint job with the amount of helmets in there, you've got, I think there's still the caps and like the berets. And I mean, if you want to get really funky, you can get the bear skins from the Grognard kit, and then you can really do some interesting stuff. Where did my Grognard go? I know I had one handy here somewhere. There you are. This Foreign Legion hat. So something I might try that myself. See how that works. But I gotta say, definitely a fun kit. And one that, even though I initially wasn't even super interested in, I've painted literally half the box already, which is kind of out of the norm for me. It's not something that I was super keen on. I was looking forward to more of the Boxers and the Goths. I mean, my personal preference is the fantasy or historical stuff, but I gotta say, this is a fun little kit, and I can see myself probably finishing off this box in the near future, doing a whole different style of troop, and especially once we start seeing some other stuff, some of those sleeveless arms I can see myself goofing around with. But definitely keep an eye on the channel. We'll see what other crazy concoctions we can come up with. But I think if you're interested in a kit like this, there's definitely a lot of applications and a lot of fun to be had there, as well as a lot of variety in what you're going to end up making. So big thumbs up to Wargames Atlantic for these. And with that said, this has been High Lord Tamberlane with Obscurities and Miniatures, saying thanks for watching, and we will see you back here soon. Bye-bye.